next person to speak, but his progeny, Alex, was kind enough to do an introduction for us at the first Magic Weekend we went to. So that was only sort of 10-15 episodes into our first series as well. So this is Dr. Bob Phillips, who's very kindly contributed to us. Again, Bob has been involved since the very, very early days, and is certainly one of the preeminent paediatric oncologists in the country, if not globally.
He's just a teenage cancer doctor.
He is just a teenage cancer doctor, exactly. But
that's from back in the old kitchen days with the dogs walking around, that guy.
Do you remember when we were joking that he might not really be a doctor?
Yeah, and then he was like keynote speaker at the teenage oncology festival in Toronto or something.
Few listeners get us as gooey as Bob Phillips tends to do we, when we talk about them? So over to you, Bob. Let's hear what you had to say.
Hello, this is Bob Phillips, and I'm delighted to be recording this for the 100th episode of Super League Pod. Well done, Mark and Tom. You did an amazing job week in, week out. Surely the all-in-one rugby kit is coming. Which team do you think would promote it? And which players would be used to promote it? Well, I imagine it'll look like the middle-aged men you see cycling around the hills of Yorkshire. And, as such, I think it should be the Catalan Dragons. They've never been afraid to take on fashion head-to-head and lose, quite significantly at times. And I reckon that they would go for a little and large approach. So we'd have Dave the Train and Eloi, or is it Eloy, Pelissier, both the biggest and the smallest, kitted up in their slick lycra oversuits. They'd also have the lowest recorded sales of their kit for any year in the past decade. Do Blue Smarties really send kids crazy? Well, this is an interesting question, and in a sense there has been research on the matter. In 2013, in the American Journal of Psychiatry, there was a systematic review with meta-analysis of different types of non-pharmacological interventions for children with ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. What they did was they took randomised controlled trials where, unknown to the participants, they'd been given one thing or another thing, and one of these treatments that they looked at was food and alteration of food and food colourings. What they found was that the effects were extremely small for even those children that said they were sensitive to food colourings, or at least whose parents said they were sensitive for food colourings. So, in controlled scientific conditions, given children that are most likely to be affected by Blue Smarties, the effect is non-existent and can be put down to the placebo effect. However, you shouldn't put Blue Smarties out at a party because it's already mad enough, and the placebo effect adding on top of that to a children's party would be disastrous. What's the best game of rugby league we've ever watched? Well, bizarrely, I have to think back to the first game we watched live. It was myself, my father-in-law and my son Alex, and we went to see Saints hammer the Leeds Rhinos at Headingley live. It was 50 against 8 or something ridiculous. Despite the horrendous scoreline, the atmosphere in Headingley was astounding, and I'll always remember just how much Alex enjoyed it, and he doesn't like loud noises or lots of people about him. We had a fantastic time, and he's wanted to keep going back ever since. So that is really the best game we've ever been to. If I could pick any rugby league personality to be in a Bond film, as Bond, as a villain, or as a Bond girl, who would I choose? Do you know, whilst Marwan Kukash would make the most astounding Bond villain, I think that Joel Moon would actually be a rather excellent Bond. And alongside him? Well, let's go for the first transsexual Bond girl. Let's have Ryan Hall with his blonde hair and none of that ridiculous facial fuzz he was wearing earlier in the year. And that would be my ideal Bond trio. Boys, you do an amazing job for the pod. It's brilliant to listen every week. I really look forward to it, as I think do hundreds and hundreds of people across the UK. Keep it up, chaps.
Bob, that was incredible. Thank you so much for that insight, particularly into the Blue Smarties.
That had me in pieces when
as soon as I heard that question being read, I'm like, Bob will have looked into this, and that's incredible. And that's what you get from Bob Phillips. That level of detail. When it's something along these lines, you know you're getting the very best.
Delivered in that dry and informative way, but he obviously knew that was going to have us going. Because that had me in stitches.
Well, it's like you said, you can tell Bob's obviously used to public speaking, and that comes across in spades, doesn't it? But thank you so much for your contribution.
I'm pretty sure that the first game he was talking about was Saints against Wigan, because I remember going to watch Wigan beat them by 50 points to 8 in about 2012 off the top of my head, one of my favourite games ever. Right. So I think he might, unless Saints did it too, I wouldn't remember that as well, would I? So maybe it did happen.
Perhaps not.
But anyway, great stuff.
Okay, so
hold on.
I
am worried about his Ryan Hall obsession.
He's very into Ryan Hall, isn't he?
Like, yeah, worryingly so.
Would you not have like one kind of half-man crush? Like if the baddies came in and held a gun to your head and said you've got to fuck one dude.
David Beckham.
Really?
That's too quick an answer, isn't it?
Jesus, that was straight off the mark. Did you consider anyone else, or has it just always been Bex?
Tom, it was never you.
No.
Stop crying.
We know that's secretly you. It's Tom Hardy for me, by the way.
Fair enough.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, but yeah, cheers, Bob. Thank you very much. And so this is the other side of Bob, is that he can drive us down these tangents quite accidentally. He's like the puppet master, isn't he? Okay, so from one grand old voice of the Super League pod to yet another, the man for whom going full Bry was named, Brian Davies. Let's hear what Bry had to say.
Congratulations, lads, on your 100th episode of Super League Pod. Great show. I really enjoy listening to the podcast each week. So well done on the first 100, and here's to the next 100. Okay, so my questions are: if you were Dr. K and you hadn't invested in Salford, which club out of the 3 British leagues would you invest your money in? Mine, I'd put it into London. I think London's got a real opportunity to be something really fantastic. And the first thing I'd do would be to secure a ground that they could stay at for a long, long time. Next question. Best ground you've ever visited, whether it be in Australia, New Zealand or the UK. I've visited lots and lots of grounds, never been to New Zealand yet, hopefully going for next year's World Cup. But probably the best was the Suncorp Stadium in Brisbane. I was there for the 2008 World Cup final, and that was just a fantastic atmosphere. What do you remember of your first game seen in the flesh? Was there any chance of you ever supporting another team? First game I saw was Wakefield Trinity versus Keighley Cougars in '98 when we were in the First Division. And I remember just the music every time a try was scored. And I also stood right at the front where the old dugouts were, and just remember looking up at one of our substitutes, I think it was Wayne McDonald, and just thinking how massive he was. So it was just the sun, the size of the players, and just all the noise. Fantastic. And yeah, I could have easily supported another team. I waited until Wakefield got confirmed as they got a place in Super League before I committed myself to them. Otherwise, I'd have probably gone and supported Leeds or Cass instead. What is your all-time Super League 13? Okay, fullback, Sam Tompkins. I just love him. I think he's brilliant. On the wings, Leslie Vinacolo and Tom Johnson. I know he's not the best, but I get so excited every time he's got the ball in his hands. In the centres, Keith Senior and Jamie Lyons. Half-backs, Lee Breers and Sean Long. Both on the day, absolutely really exciting. Props, Stuart Fielden and Barry Mack. I used to really like the days when they used to fight each other. Kieran Cunningham at hooker. Second row, Gaz Ellis and David Solomona, both Wakey players, but both really, really exciting. And loose forward, Paul Sculthorpe.
Right, well, interesting insight from Brian as well, and thank you so much for getting in touch. We didn't give Brian quite the credit he deserved earlier on in the show. We got a picture of Brian down in Coventry earlier this week, Mark, wearing his SLP jersey with pride.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that during the game recaps, but we'll mention it as many times as we want because I love seeing Brian going on his round the ground.
Yes.
It's a shame he didn't have the shirt for the start of the year, and we could have unofficially sponsored the book that he should no doubt produce for his travels around the rugby league world.
And I also think I owe him a slight apology as well, because unless I'm mistaken, he was also with a lady called Rachel Davies, who I'm assuming is Mrs. Davies.
Mrs. Davies.
This weekend. So, every credit. But I apologise for even indelicately teasing you.
What did you tease him?
I teased him saying that his missus was kicking him out of the house. And he was sort of like, have to figure out what to do, which was just getting rid of him. When in actual fact, they enjoy it as a couple, which is, the holy grail, isn't it, I suppose? Really?
So it's the birding that she gets rid of him during?
Possibly so, yeah.
But, I mean, I'm confused as he wants his best ever 13 to start fighting with each other on the pitch with his prop forward suggestions.
Yes.
A bit of a strange one, but...
I have to say that having listened to it back for the first time when he was reading out his all-time Super League 13, because he went Sam Tompkins, I immediately looked across the table at you and went, he's fucking pandering to you, isn't he? And then the next words out of his mouth were Leslie Vidacolo. I was like, well, maybe he's pandering to both of us, or maybe he knows his onions, I don't know. But that was tremendous, Brian. Thank you very much.
And he was the perfect person to answer the question about the best grounds to go to, because I don't think I know someone who's better travelled around the rugby league world.
He just clocked up some rugby league
certainly
miles,
in terms of the mainstream rugby league world. Anyway, we know some people who've been to lots of backwaters or just up and coming places who are well travelled. But Brad's been everywhere.
Speaking of people who've been everywhere.
Who get everywhere.
Yeah, certainly he's like a bad dose, isn't he? Darren Garner got in touch with us. Now, this is a little bit different, isn't it? Because we got, like we alluded to earlier, we got a package through, or you got a package through the post, Mark.
Well, it was for both of us. It was just...
Yeah, well, it was addressed to you, and I didn't know about it until an hour ago.
That's because you don't read our correspondence.
That was a massive surprise.
Well, maybe we'll listen to Darren first, and then we'll find out we'll read out his little letter to us after we've heard what he has to say for himself. And also, he's rolled it in with his best bud Rob, who is the sort of straight man out of their double act. I would say that the chap who wrote The Spirit of 55, Warrington Wolves book, which they kindly gave us as a gift, a signed copy, which is one of the bright moments of this podcast, and it's so great that so far we've got down the list and we've met all these people or had prolonged contact with all these people, and it's fantastic to feel like it does feel like a real celebration of the hundreds of episodes. The people who we've been getting in touch with this. So let's have Dar go now.
Hey lads, first of all, I'm sure I won't be the first or the last to say this, but I want to congratulate you on 100 episodes of Super League Pod. It's been quite some journey. It's been a journey that's gone from strength to strength, to be honest. So keep up the good work, keep doing what you do, and keep doing it well. All right. Now, over the years, there's been a fair few amount of duos, such as Simon and Garfunkel, Hale and Pace, Morecambe and Wise, Fish and Chips, Ant and Deck, and even the big famous Tom and Mark, or Mark and Tom, just so Sparky doesn't get offended there. Anyway, so in that tradition, I've got head together with Rob, aka Spirit of 55, and I flashed him over the questions that you were asking us to answer, and together we've come up with this. So just like every other recording that I've done to bore the pants off you, this is one of them, okay? So Rob, forgive the Irish accent. I know I'm not from Ireland, but I seem to have picked it up to be sure. So here we go with the questions. Question 1. If you could pick any rugby league personality to be in a Bond film as Bond, a villain, or a Bond girl, who would you choose? Well, Rob actually hit the nail on the head with this one, but I'm going to add to it, okay? So Rob said Russell Crowe to be a Bond villain, which I think is just pure genius. Hence the reason why I sent these questions to Rob. Now, the only thing that I could add to that is definitely the quartet of the Burgess brothers behind him. Now, I know Luke's not there, but I'm sure if his brothers got involved or anything, then Luke would be straight over to defend Russell Crowe as well. So, yeah, it's got to be Russell Crowe with the Burgess brothers behind him. Question 2. Where do you think the game would be now if, 20 years ago, all the mergers had took place? So, this, again, has come from Rob. I think the mergers would have meant a lot of existing fans would have stopped going to the games. This would have forced all the teams to become a lot more proactive, energetic and unorthodox with their marketing ploys. Depending on the success of those campaigns, Either the game would have died and maybe even ended up merging with Union. Controversial. Or it would have been popular enough to entice the old fans back after a couple of years.